All right, guys, Coach Chad back again today. Sitting in my bottom squat once again. I've been doing a lot of videos from this position, and today what I want to chat about is stretching out the big toe and also connecting that into the soleus, which is actually where most of us are tight when we talk about ankle restriction, okay? So you can see without my heel plates down here, my heels are rising a little bit. Still feels okay, just a little bit tighter than normal. And most of this is due to tight soleus, which is then the back aspect of the calf is broken into two different components. So we have to understand this just a little bit deeper to make sense of this. You think about your two calf muscles, which are your gastrocs. Those cross the knee, so they become almost like a two-joint muscle, which attaches to the Achilles tendon down here onto the calcaneus and the top of the femur up here. So it's a two-joint. So when we're sitting in a squat, the gastrocs, the calves, are actually shortened, whereas the soleus, which is kind of underlying underneath the gastrocs, and it's connected very deeply through fascial connections and all of that, is then connected to the calcaneus and up onto the tibia, the back of the shin, okay? So for most people, when we're in a bent squat position, it's the soleus that's the problem. The soleus is then, of course, connected through a fascial line, the deep fascial line, the deep posterior fascial line, into the plantar fascia in the base of the foot. So all the musculature in the bottom of the foot is really, really imperative to getting range of motion when we're sitting in a bottom squat. And again, it's one of those things that we mostly or frequently overlook, is the bottom of our foot. Now, I have other videos that I've done on mobilization of the foot through like manual mobilization of the actual bones of the foot, and then also with an external object such as a ball or whatever to get the musculature in the arch of the foot and the whole base of the foot. Now, there's one more thing we can talk about as well, which is unique, and that is the actual flexibility of your big toe. Now, your big toe should have somewhere between 60 to 100 degrees of extension. Now, what I note on mine is I really only have about 45 to 50 degrees. So there's a couple classic stretches that can be done to stretch out the big toe, which, reminder, the big toe is actually connected, there's multiple muscles that are connected to the big toe that come across the base of the foot and wrap around, again, into the back of the calf. So fascially and connection-wise, the whole body is just interstitched together. So we can never just think about only stretching out the big toe. We're actually talking about stretching out this whole dorsiflexion position here that creates range of motion about the ankle, all right? So one of the classic stretches that people do is they do just simply like rise up onto the toes like this, lean forward and sit down, okay? And you do a stretch like this, and you start in a position here, slowly rock back. This is a fine stretch, nothing wrong with it, but personally I've always noted that it's almost impossible for me to hold this stretch because my heels want to just fall out and I fall onto my toes because I'm not flexible enough to hold this position, and it becomes too challenging to hold my heels close together and keep that stretch in the line of my big toe. So I've been playing around with different ways to do this, and this is what I've come up with. What you can do is you can sit down on the ground like this. I kind of feel like I'm a goblin or something on the top of a building, and you place your heels together, your toes turned out anywhere between maybe 20 and 30 degrees. Now what you're going to do is you're going to block your knees with your arms, and you're going to just lean forward slightly, but you got to keep your heels together, okay? And for me, this just became a much more potent position to get this stretch in. So I lean myself forward, and as I'm doing this, eventually, through a little bit of practice, I was able to, under load, get about 90 degrees of range of motion out of my big toe. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm driving my knee down towards the floor while at the same time thinking about pushing my heel back towards the floor behind me. Okay, so I'm thinking about getting more and more dorsiflexion of the ankle, but I'm also getting more and more range out of the toe. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice to kind of figure it out, but once you get in there, it's quite potent. So then I just lean forward over that big toe, stretching out the base of my foot, and I feel this, of course, in behind my big toe, but also right up through the plantar fascia of my foot through here, and then I get a very, very strong soleus, or almost a connection right into the Achilles stretch, which feels amazing, and it's really, really nice. So you guys can play with this at home and just modify, okay? But remember, we're not trying to extend like this, okay? What we want to do, if I turn sideways, if that helps, is to continue thinking about driving my heel down towards the floor while I'm driving my knee forward and over and getting more range out of the big toe, okay? And it's a constant kind of battle, a little bit of a push-pull back and forth to get this. So drive the heel back while I'm pushing the knee forward. And it's a very, very potent stretch. And then to get it more deeply into the soleus and Achilles, make sure that we don't roll out and extend and have the heels turn away from each other. So if I come here, it might make it easier to see. I don't want you to do this. As you do that, you end up pushing out onto the edge, onto the digits of your toes. I want you to stay on the big toe and keep your heel together, okay? So as the heels are together and we push forward, that's where we get that nice deep stretch, and you can get a lot more out of this when you're in this position. Now, for some reason, this one doesn't work very well for you. There's another one. You can do the exact same thing, but just imagine doing it on one foot. So then I'm just sitting down here. I'm just going to pull over and do the exact same thing. Heel down to the floor as much as I can while driving my knee forward and closing this angle as much as I can and increasing this angle as much as I can. Now, the hard part about doing it with one foot is you got to make sure not to turn the knee out too much. So what I was doing was blocking my knee with my arm on the outside edge and keeping the weight over that big toe, and then it becomes so much more potent, okay? And then we kind of push in there. I personally like the two-legged one, but for some reason the one-leg one works better for you. It's exactly the same, but again, just make sure you're getting the stretch in the right spot where we're actually improving the range through the great toe, okay? I like that, the great toe, not the big toe, the great toe, okay? And getting this range here, but also sending that all the way up through here. So even when I'm sitting here and I pull my toe up, I can feel that deep into my soleus under my gastroc here, coming all the way down and around. Okay, and you should feel that. That's what we're looking for. So I want you to try and find that and use your body weight to gain it, all right? And again, I want to make sure that we're clear that this isn't just simply a stretch for the fun of stretching. It's actually improving our ankle range of motion and our foot dexterity and our foot mobilization, which has impact in all sports that we play, change of direction sports, but also just in the weight room for squatting, deadlifting, all this. The more range you get in the bottom position of your squat, the more healthy your joints of your ankle, knee, and hip, and I guess you could argue all the joints in the foot as well, are going to be. We have to have the function and the ability to create range of motion around these joints and be strong in these deep ranges of motion. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here, okay? So I want you to keep playing with this and mess around with it a little bit and give me some feedback on how it's going.